This is the best projector I've ever used. This could very easily be the ultimate home projector for anyone looking to make their own home theater, for gaming, for watching movies, for watching sports. What you're looking at right here is the brand new XGIMI Titan Noir Max. And thanks to the dual iris system, this projector brings deeper blacks, richer contrast, and this is stuff that was once limited to $50,000 projectors. A lot of home projectors claim to get like 100-inch displays, but honestly, many of them struggle to even do that. This projector, however, goes well beyond that with sharp images at up to 300 inches for the ultimate home movie theater, sports viewing, even gaming room. There's really a lot of uses that I've already found with this. And the lens shift and optical zoom let you choose where and how you want the picture to show up. So XGIMI sent this over and is sponsoring this video, but I will be covering both pros and cons in this video. I'll include testing in here, and I'll show you the capabilities and some real-world tests so you can decide for yourself if this is the right projector for your home theater. So let's start off with some key specs, and then we'll get into some testing, and I'll talk about the design and things like that. So big picture here, why is this a significant projector? A couple key specs. 7,000 ISO lumens that can be manually adjusted or automatically adjusted based on ambient light detection on here. It's got a lot of sensors. We have 10,000 to 1 contrast, RGB triple laser, 4K Ultra HD image, optical zoom, like I said before, goes from 0.98 up to 2x, and digital cropping and rotating is available as well. So you can really put this like exactly where you want it. I'll demonstrate that a little bit later as well. We've got lens shifting, so you've got 130% vertical and 50% horizontal. So it moves side to side fairly far, but up and down is incredibly far. So it could literally project like almost on the floor right in front of it. Like it really has quite a range there. The delta E, so that's going to be color related, is less than 0.8 color accuracy. That's a really good thing. You want it to be that number and lower. 4 gigabytes of RAM on here, 64 gigs of storage on board. This also has a 240 hertz refresh rate, so obviously you could watch movies that are 24 frames per second, but all the way up to 240 hertz is great for gaming or doing all kinds of things on your computer. Like, it's just nice to have a fast refresh rate available. Also, as you can see right here, Harman Kardon sound. We'll do a sound test in a minute. You can see what this sounds like. It also has dynamic tone mapping. This can adjust to like a projector screen or a wall. It does a lot with color, and we'll talk about that later. And of course, 1 millisecond input lag. So again, meant to be a little more optimized for gaming. Overall, incredible projector on paper. The specs are stacking up really good. But let's take a look at the design here. This is kind of a very XGIMI design, which I actually really like the way their projectors look. We've got the ports on the back. I'll turn this around and actually I'll show you some B-roll. So from right to left, we've got the power button on here. You can also turn it on using the remote. We've got a LAN port there, audio port that's going to be a 3.5 millimeter, so you could plug in any other speakers you have. We also have eARC over as HDMI 1, but 3 HDMIs total. We've got 2 USBs, we've got an optical input, and of course, our power input on the left side there. It's a lot of ports. I think that my first little downside here is I do wish that this had USB Type-C as well. I mean, just a lot of things are starting to use more and more USB Type-C. Like I have some little thumb drives, some flash drives that are only USB Type-C. It would be nice to see that on here. Then next to the power button, we have a LAN port. This is gigabit LAN, but for pretty much everything else, that's a solid setup. Most things are probably gonna be plugged in with HDMI. You can see the body is metal on the top and the sides. We've got the legs are adjustable, so all 4 of them go really quite high up, so you can adjust it to the right angle if you wanted to, if you don't wanna just use the lens shift and keystone that's already on here. And the design on here, I think looks quite nice. Like the case is like it's very XGIMI. Like I said, very subtle and minimal, blends in really well, but has like nice lines and patterns that kind of just fade into the flat metal on the surroundings. Very minimal branding on here as well, keeping it low key. So XGIMI you can see on the top, and on the front, all you see is IMAX enhanced. That's actually the only color we have on this entire thing besides the ring around the lens. Overall, I really like the way this design looks. Very futuristic, clean lines that, like I said, just kind of disappear into the metal. It looks good. And the remote, we've seen really this remote pretty much before. XGIMI, it's a nice solid feeling remote. It's got a nice matte aluminum feel to it. And of course the buttons for everything you need. You can set up the shortcuts. You've got 4 different shortcuts there and just the basic buttons for controlling this. You'll notice we don't have like a Netflix button or a Disney Plus button. And the reason for that is kind of an interesting design choice that I'll talk about in a minute. But the setup for this. So when you're setting this up, I kind of mentioned some of the things it's already able to do, but of course, auto keystone, auto focus, zoom capabilities, like I said, lens shifting capabilities. So setting this up, like that combo means you can pretty much set this projector anywhere I believe you could also probably mount it to the ceiling fairly easily on the bottom if you just take these screws out and you get a bracket that could mount onto this. You could potentially mount it up on the ceiling, but I would be setting it behind my couch. Also, if you look at the settings here, there's a ton you can do. So obviously turning it on, plug and play, like that's fine, but a lot of people are gonna wanna tinker with this kind of a projector. This is definitely more of the sort of like prosumer, people at home that are really tinkering with this. You're gonna wanna adjust this. It's kind of like EQing a good pair of headphones. You can adjust the colors, the motion, the contrast. You can enable and disable a ton of different things on here. For example, I reduced the MEMC, just a little bit of a motion smoothing thing. I prefer to have that off. Some people might want that stronger, but there's 3 different levels, or you could have that off. There's even color filters as well. So if you wanted this to have more of like an old film style, or even black and white, or whatever you're doing, like I personally just like it on standard mode, but honestly, some of them do look pretty good. If you're trying to have more of that movie theater vibe, you can do that, and that can all be done in the projector itself. You also have AI contrast enhancement, and you have black level enhancement as well. So you can actually see a pretty stark difference as I toggle this on and off. You just really see like the text on my jacket in this one video. It was like a scooter, it's a motorcycle jacket really, but you'll see like the text just really pops out, makes it way more visible, but it doesn't look like overly done. It just feels like it should have been like that the whole time. So I think that was pretty smooth and pretty well done. You can go into gaming mode, and as you see, you have a ton of settings here, really optimizing for the color and the refresh rate and everything you want for your game. And of course, depending on what you're playing, you could have very different settings here. As far as the image goes, as you saw there was a lot to really like. BT 2020, 110%, Delta E less than 0.8, which like anything less than 1 is like incredible. So 0.8, really awesome to see that. HDR 10 plus, obviously IMAX enhanced, they say that on the front there. Dolby Vision on here. We've got dynamic tone mapping, which is great for improving HDR image quality. Also, looking at the image, I mentioned dual iris early on, so you're able to adjust this anywhere from f2.0 all the way up to f7.0, and of course dynamic as well. So again, kind of tailoring what you want that to really look like for better contrast control. Also, if you turn on DBLE, you get up to 100,000 to 1 dynamic contrast. Overall, there's a lot that this does right with the image quality, and as I said before, you can adjust it. But a little side note here, if you're going to spend the money on something like this, many people already know this, but in case you don't, you're gonna see a huge difference if you also invest in a good quality screen. So whether you want one that's going to be like, rejecting ambient light, if you're in more of a living room setting, or if you just, there's a whole rabbit hole. I can make a whole video about different projector screens. Getting a good one will go a long way. This is very capable and can produce a really good image, and it's gonna be even better if you have the right screen. Also, the fan noise on this, how loud is this? Well, I mean, I could turn it on. You can be on for the next, that's the fan right there. I'm not sure if the microphone picks it up. The fan is really quiet, but I'll do another fan noise test. I'll have it project like a white screen, just really try to get as hot as I can, and we'll see how loud it is. But from everything I've watched and like as much as I've used this so far, it really hasn't been audible at all. There also is a speaker on here, as I obviously mentioned before, Harman Kardon sound. So let's get into a speaker test and see how that performs as well. All right, so little speaker test here. I know a lot of people using this are probably going to be setting up their, their home theater with some other speakers, but in case you want to use the speaker on this projector, it's actually really quite capable. I'll give you my analysis on the sound in a minute, but I'm gonna play a song that I generated on Suno at 75% volume, then we'll go up to 100. We'll listen for distortion, the mix on bass and treble and everything, and I'll give you my thoughts on it in a second. So let's just hit play on this, and I'll play it for about 20 seconds, and then we'll go up to full volume. All right, now going up to full volume here, which I like how fast the volume moves, by the way.
XGIMI Titan Noir Max, made the wall a choir, colors pop like candy, black stay deep and clean, every tiny detail looks sharper than a dream. Ooh, I need it.
All right, so that is what it sounds like. It's going to be hard to really hear this on camera. Of course, I'm just using a microphone that is probably maybe, I'm sitting normal distance away from the projector, maybe 3-4 feet away. But the sound, it delivers a surprising amount of bass. A lot of projectors really struggle with the bass because they have small speakers on board. It's clear that XGIMI has a pretty large one on there. I think the mix is pretty good. It's definitely more bass heavy, but for movies and more action style stuff, the bass is going to be, quite a valuable asset there. And I think that overall, I'm pretty impressed with this. Like, yes, I probably would be getting more speakers in a home theater, but if you plan on using this, this is actually really good. Also, side note, I thought this song was really funny. I love the lyrics that they made for this. I had to just make a song about this projector. Thought it was, look at that. All right, maybe no one else thinks that's cool. All right, so first look at the colors here. Honestly, the gradients look really smooth. You can see even like the dark grays down here. They're not showing up on my laptop screen, which is a MacBook Pro, pretty much at all. Like, you're just not seeing them. But on the projector, they show up perfectly. Also, you can see the white level down in the middle, very, very bright. And the black level right next to it is essentially indistinguishable from the projector screen in the background. Also, look at the top bar, for example, all the way up there. You really can't tell where the projection ends. The black levels look really, really good on here. The colors all look really solid. Let's go and see what it looks like. I think skin tones are really the most telling way to identify color, at least in my opinion. So let's bring up a video of me and see how it looks. Also, obviously, I showed you some examples earlier in a more ambient light, midday setting. I just closed some mini blinds. This is actually fully dark, so let's see what it looks like when I play a video of just myself to see the skin tones. Okay, so looking at skin tones here, you can see shadows and highlights all look very accurate. My skin, I think, looks quite realistic here. It's gonna be tough to see on camera. My camera does tend to make this look a little bit more red and a little bit more saturated. It also seems like there's vignetting, but again, the camera is just not going to be able to pick up very accurately what the projection really looks like. So my analysis here, I think the color looks very accurate on my skin tones. The greens in the kind of dying yucca behind me, again, look really good. And you can see, okay, this is a better example here. My hands do look slightly saturated there, a little bit more red than they naturally would be, but I think we can change that in settings fairly easily on here if I just go into settings. And now is a good time to really dive into all of the options we have with these settings. So if I just go down to brightness and display, you're able to change things like the adaptive light, which is going to be using the sensors as I talked about. The brightness level, this is at brightness level 1. So we can go all the way up to brightness level 10, which 10 plus is incredibly bright. So we can go all the way to brightness level 10, which is incredibly bright. I think in a low light environment, brightness level 1 does an excellent job here. So we also have the dual iris, so you can adjust between brightness and contrast level. So this is going to have lower brightness but much better contrast if you go to F7. And wow, that actually looks very, very different just switching over to that. To be honest, I think I like F7 the best, but there's also dynamic if you're interested in that. So let's see the other settings we've got. You've got a ton down here. I'm not going to go through everything, but we do have 3D settings on here. So you can set up some 3D glasses with this. You've got game enhancer mode. So if you go and toggle this on, you'll see the colors look very different. Of course, it's optimized for a game. They're going to be much more saturated. All right, so once again, the camera really struggles to pick this up, but in game mode, you have significantly higher saturation, which makes sense for games. If we go into settings and we go down to game enhancement, we have standard or boost, and boost is going to give us that lower latency, so we could switch over to that if you wanted to. So yeah, we have a ton of settings over here, but honestly, I'm really happy with the way this looks. Like, that color looks, the skin tones are, honestly, they're so difficult for projectors to get right, and this seems to be doing a really good job here. Okay, so for any kind of fan noise or anything, this is at brightness 10 plus. It's in boost mode. Honestly, it hurts my eyes. But I'll hold the microphone right next to it because from where I am, which is now right like maybe 2 feet away from the projector, I really don't hear the fan at all. But I'll hold it right next to it, see if you can hear anything. Yeah, it's pretty much silent. Now, I mentioned earlier the ports and the interesting design choice, and what I was really getting to is that this does not have Google TV or Android TV. I asked XGIMI why they did this, and they told me it's running a custom system based on Android 14, but they chose to do this So they could optimize the system from the ground up and ensure the light, shadow, latency, and other performance aspects are as optimal as possible. So you could see like it was doing AI contrast enhancement, different things like that. This projector was designed purely to maximize the performance and cinema grade image quality for this price point. So that means that if you're using this, you are going to have to be plugging in, a Blu-ray player, Apple TV, laptop, whatever into the back. And as I said, there's a ton of ports back here, so you're gonna have this set up. This is not like a little mini projector you just bring around. Like you can move it, but I think most people will have this set up in one spot pretty consistently, and it's gonna make sense to have everything plugged in the back and just switch between them on the remote. And also, if you ever wanted to, I believe you could sideload through USB and have your own, Android TV on here if you wanted to. So getting into the pros and cons with this. Pros, I mean, it is really easy to set up. It's actually easy to move. I know I said you probably have it in one spot, but I've moved this all over the place, and it's quite good at setting up and just getting the image up, in a good quality in very little time. Obviously, image quality, huge positive here. We've got an excellent lens on the front. Overall, great quality from that aspect. It's also flexible thanks to the zoom and the lens shifting. It's incredibly bright, very contrasty, rich colors. Like I said, the AI contrast enhancement really did a lot, and the deeper blacks on here just makes it look a lot more like what you'd expect from a TV and not what you'd expect from a projector. It's also significantly cheaper than what you used to pay for this kind of performance, and the combination of very low input lag plus 240 hertz makes this a very viable gaming setup. But not everything's perfect with this. A couple downsides, as I mentioned before, I do kind of wish this had USB Type-C on the back. Just like one extra port would be pretty nice. The lack of Android TV and Google TV is not really a drawback to me. I'm gonna be plugging an Apple TV into here anyway, but I suppose a number of people would appreciate having that on board. I'm not sure what that would entail, having a slightly more powerful processor or what that would be, but it would maybe be a nice to have on here. But I suppose most people buying projectors in this price range are probably gonna have something wired in anyway. Also, I forgot to mention this before, but this does support active shutter 3D content, so another cool experience you could have in your home theater. Also, you can see this has the X-Master Red Ring Lens Pro. There's 3 different models. There's the base model, the Pro, and the Max. So the Pro and the Max both have the Red Ring lens. It's engineered with a 15-element ultra high-res A-grade optical system. So that's gonna give us better sharpness, better image quality, less distortion on the edges, and you can definitely see that with this. So closing statements on this projector. This is definitely not cheap, but the quality it delivers is quite impressive. So there's 3 different models. Like I said, the base model is $3,999. The next model up, the Pro, is gonna be an extra $1,000, and then the Max is an extra $1,000 again. But if you're looking for an excellent home cinema experience, but you don't wanna spend $10,000 or $20,000, this is certainly worth considering. This really is delivering a lot of those high-end specs. The image is bright, it's crisp, it's contrasty. The dark black on here is just really impressive for a projector, and the design is also elegant. The interface is smooth. There's really minimal interface that you need to deal with, and it's a lot easier to use than something that might update a lot on like Android TV. Like your settings are always very easy there. It feels intuitive, and the lens shifting, zooming, everything else means you can set it up pretty much anywhere you want, even shine it on a wall if you wanted to. I hope you buy a projector screen for this price, but you could shine on the wall and you're still gonna get a pretty incredible image. So, and if you're interested in learning more, you can pre-order this now with the link down below. XGIMI gave me a link that gives you a huge discount of $3,000 off, bringing this down to $2,999. It's a limited time on Kickstarter, so the price will go up eventually. So if you guys are interested, be sure to check it out before the price goes up. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. And if I should compare this to anything, let me know what should I compare it to.